And joining me today is senior national reporter Christopher Wiggins. Hello, Christopher. So
Hi,
you got
Stephen.
hello, thank you for joining me. So you got to sit down with our cover star, Vice President Harris, for a lengthy conversation in none other than her West Wing office at the White House. What did you talk about?
Well, it was really an incredible opportunity to sit down with the vice president, and we discussed, the political moment we're in, particularly with the attacks on transgender Americans. She told me that she really has a problem with bullies. It's something that she hates. And, we discussed a little bit about what the future would hold for uniting people behind this one cause to ensure that the rights of trans people and the LGBTQ community are protected as we go into the future. We also talked a little bit about how she has a very long history of being an ally to the LGBTQ community, and some of the things that she's been able to do in her career, from San Francisco DA to Attorney General, Senator, and now Vice President.
And you got to spend several days with the Vice President Harris. I mean, what did you take away from the experience?
Well, I will say that there is no better way to travel than in a motorcade. That is for sure, because there is no traffic, regardless of where you're going. I'll also say that flying on Air Force Two is very special. They have very comfortable seating. The plane is configured in a way that is like you would think on television. And ultimately, the entire vice president's team is incredibly organized and super capable. They work really well together, and that's the one thing that I would really take away, is that behind the scenes, the vice president's team is very well capable, and she's very well supported.
Yeah, well, and speaking of teams and behind the scenes, you spoke with current and former staff members from her time as San Francisco District Attorney, California Attorney General, US Senator, and the Vice President. What did you learn about Harris from those who've worked with her in the past?
One thing that came through in all of the conversations that I had with people who've worked with her in the past is that, this moment where she is really throwing her support behind the LGBTQ community is not a surprise for anyone that has known her for a long time. She has always had many staff that are members of the community. She has lots of friends who are members of the LGBTQ community. And this level of advocacy isn't new for her. One of the things that I was talked to by some people was that they thought maybe the amount of attention we were getting with having this cover story in right after Pride Month was because this was, a flash in the pan moment, and I can pretty much assure that that's not the case. It is one of those situations where a longtime ally has really engaged in advocacy for a very long time, surrounded herself with people from our community, and continues to advocate for the rights of those who are marginalized in the LGBTQ community now.
And as you wrote in the article, her history proves that. And you asked the President Harris, Vice President Harris, about some of her proudest moments over the course of her career. Can you tell me about some of those?
Yeah, one of her most proud moments is her the ability to say that she has performed some of the first same-sex weddings in this country. Back when she was San Francisco District Attorney in 2004, she performed some of the first same-sex weddings. And then, she tells a really personal story about her friends, now friends, the plaintiffs, uh, Chris uh, Chris Perry and Sandy Spear, who challenged the Prop 8 law in California. Their case ended up being the one that overturned that law in California and made marriage equality in that state legal. And she performed that marriage right after the Supreme Court gave the green light. And so she tells a really powerful story about what it was like to, conduct these weddings, and the atmosphere that was surrounding the news that marriage equality had been brought to California. And so she really engaged a lot about, the fact that there are relationships that people, regardless of whom they love, should be able to cherish and honor, and that should be recognized by the government. So she, will say that that's one of her proudest moments. And then, she follows that up by, also saying that last December, when President Biden signed the Respect for Marriage Act into law on the South Lawn of the White House, he handed her the only pen with which he signed that piece of legislation. And those ceremonial pens are generally given to, someone who has been super supportive when it comes to a piece of legislation. And, she really recognizes the honor which she received by being given that pen. And so she's kept it.
And what are her plans for the future? Did she let you in any insight? What's next, especially towards the LGBTQ plus community? Is she going to continue that good work?
Yeah, so she's definitely going to continue advocating for the LGBTQ community. In fact, after we sat down and had our interview, and after I had spent several days, in Los Angeles and at West Point in New York with her, I was invited to join her visit to the Stonewall Inn in Manhattan, where she had a surprise visit right before the 54th anniversary of Stonewall. And, that's a fundraiser she attended that evening, which was by for the 24th LGBTQ Leadership Council Victory Fund. Her engagement has been consistent. And as we move forward, she has said that she's going to continue to unite people behind this cause and make sure that particularly trans Americans, but LGBTQ Americans in general, that their rights are protected and that the rights are expanded as we move into the future.
And as you see in the article, her appearances, how is she received by the public, especially the queer community? She seems to be very well received. She's grabbing our hearts, isn't she?
She is very well received. We were in Los Angeles at the Crypto.com arena where the Phoenix Mercury were playing the Los Angeles Sparks in a WNBA game. And we made a surprise stop there where the vice president spoke with Brittany Griner and her wife Sherelle because Brittany was going to be playing her first WNBA game back since being released from Russian captivity. And after they had a brief meeting in private, the vice president came onto the basketball floor and, the crowd was enamored and rapturous applause was presented to her. And when she was at Stonewall, the crowd there was really excited to see her as well. And just traveling around, various stops along the country for the several days that I was part of the VP's motorcade, it was clear that, in the public, she's very well received. There are people that will criticize her and say that maybe that she's not authentic or that she, isn't funny. But in my experience, she has been super warm. She was very funny. She was also very engaged in the conversation. In fact, we were only scheduled to meet for about 20 minutes, and we spoke for almost 45 because she was so engaged with the topic we were discussing. So, generally, she's very well received. I think that, a lot of people who, see politicians on television or, read about them in the press maybe feel that they are caricatures of people. But when you get to really see them up close and how they interact with the people around them in moments where maybe they don't think they're being watched, it really says a lot about, someone's ability to forge relationships and to be kind to other people.
Find the full article and more inside our magazine. You can stream the Advocate channel now. Download our Roku Fire TV app, TV or Google Play Store app for instant access. For Cover to Cover, I'm Stephen Walker.